And then Proceed is the head of marketing at Bloc, and he's going to be on hand to answer any questions that you might have throughout. Also, we'll have Mark Brown, who recently graduated from Bloc, and he's now a freelance developer and an entrepreneur, and he's actually going to demo one of the web apps that he built over the course of his program at Bloc, which is really cool. So I want to remind everyone that we're going to be doing a couple of Q&A sessions throughout the webinar. So please use the questions tab to send in any questions that you have. And one other reminder is that we do have a pretty sweet discount for $200 off the next Bloc Apprenticeship that you register for anyone who signed up for this webinar. So all you have to do is use the promo code course report, and you'll get that discount. So with that, I will pass it on to Roshan and...
So yeah, called Bloc. We started about 2.5 years ago. The first thing I wanted to start with is just a little bit about the ideology around how we designed our program at Bloc. We've kind of picked words like apprenticeship and mentor, and we've done that very intentionally. It's not really just like a marketing buzzword for us. It's the kind of like ethos that we bring to how we approach learning, how we approach our product, how we approach teaching. About 10 years ago, people would encourage students not to sign up for computer science because building software was quickly becoming like this outsourced thing where it was supposed to be the cheapest software you could find, and that kind of in reaction to that, there's this whole movement that emerged called the software craftsmanship movement, where they decided to focus on building quality software instead of trying to build it cheaper or outsourcing it and just trying to get it done quickly. And adding this idea of craftsmanship to something like engineering work was kind of a really interesting philosophy that we really got behind and kind of have continued to carry the torch around that with our other courses. We think of craftsmanship as something that's pragmatic. We think it's a great balance between art and engineering. And we've really kind of infused that philosophy of craftsmanship into our entire program. That's why at Bloc, instead of having teachers who have mentors, and instead of doing homework and exams, you're building real projects alongside your mentor and shipping actual things to add to your portfolio. So I'll get into a really quick demo of what it looks like to be a Bloc student in a second, but it all kind of forms around this like central thesis that we really believe in, the sort of pragmatic education that you would see alongside just the philosophy of craftsmanship. So the first thing that would happen as soon as you would select from one of our community of mentors, and these are all guys who are, you know, vetted by our course directors. They're all kind of the cream of the crop in their industry. So you go through, you get to look at their schedules to find a time that would work for you. They happen to speak a lot of different languages because our mentors are all around the globe. You can read their full profile. It includes a lot of things that they've written about themselves, reasons why they're interested in being a mentor, and you can kind of find someone who's a good personal fit, a good background fit. If you're an entrepreneur, you can find a mentor who has an entrepreneurial background and not only learn web development from them, but also learn entrepreneurial techniques from them. And yeah, you get to go through, select a mentor, and the next step is scheduling your appointments with your mentor. So you meet with them 3 times a week, and this is one of the techniques we use in helping students along in the program is to help them develop the right learning habits. So right up front, you select the 3 times a week you're going to meet with your mentor, and we try to help you develop that habit of meeting with your mentor the same 3 times every single week. So you're setting that reoccurring schedule right up front. This is a screenshot of our curriculum. We call it the roadmap. So our philosophy, the way we like to teach software development and design at Bloc is, you kind of sum up our philosophy as getting notches in your belt. So you start Bloc by going through a foundational section. If you're learning Ruby on Rails, we give you a whirlwind tour of what full stack web development looks like, what the entire ecosystem of Ruby on Rails looks like. And it's expected that you kind of move through it pretty quickly and get a quick grasp of, you know, how all these different pieces connect to each other. But the more exciting part is as soon as you finish the foundational section, you get to start working on building these actual projects. And all of our projects are based off of real-world examples. These are a few kind of just placeholder ones we have here, but if you're going through web development, you're building things like a Reddit clone, a Wikipedia clone, Google Analytics clone. So we try to make sure that you're learning how to build real things by mimicking applications that you'd actually see out in the wild. And the idea is, again, to try and get as many notches in your belt as possible so that by the end of the program, you build 5 to 7 of your own projects. They're all modeled off of realistic things you'd actually see out there. So, we're making sure that you're learning modern, pragmatic skills. This is an example of one of the units inside of the foundation section that you'd see. So this is kind of just to point out that all of our curriculum is written entirely in-house. We hire a course director for every single course that we launch in. They go through and do the painstaking amount of writing that requires to create an entirely new curriculum from scratch. But with Bloc, you're kind of paying for this tightly integrated experience. The curriculum is not designed for the purposes of our mentors, and it's all kind of one tightly made, cohesive experience. And this is what appointments typically look like with the mentor. So you're pair programming, you're using something like Screen Here or Google Hangout to actually work side by side. You can ask your mentor questions, or you can just pair program with them, work alongside them, building your project, coding directly with them, and learning best practices, learning meta skills, how they tend to solve problems within their industry. But yeah, we think that the pair programming is pretty. It's an aspect of the program that students really enjoy. So this is just a review of the entire program. Those are the highlights of everything, and it's kind of repeating through that process over the course of 12 weeks. You meet with your mentor 3 times a week to do one-on-one interactions. We're making sure that you're learning how to build real things. Use the exact tools that front or full-stack web developers are using in the industry. You're using the terminal, GitHub, deploying your apps live to Heroku, and it's built for entrepreneurs in that it all kind of culminates to this capstone project where you build a few projects where we provide you with a prompt and still give you some guidance, but at the end of the program, we'd like you to build your own project that's entirely your design, and your mentor helps you spec it out and decide how to build features and then actually launch it by the time you finish the program. Finally, we like to think that Bloc is built entirely around you. That's why we focus on that one-on-one relationship between you and your mentor, because it allows us to provide flexibility around your unique learning requirements, and the program is entirely online, so it accommodates all kinds of different lifestyles. We like to be flexible and let people continue doing what they're doing and build Bloc around you. Here's a sampling of some of our mentors. The number one thing that we screen for when we're picking out mentors is we're looking for people who have a lot of experience with their industry and are really passionate about sharing their craft. Like I said, these days, software development isn't this kind of outsourced IT kind of thing. People are really passionate and have a lot of opinions about how to do software development the right way. So we find people who are experienced practitioners and have done this for many years so that they can teach you a lot of those kind of meta aspects of web development, not just the raw skill sets. A lot of them are open source contributors, which, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's essentially kind of a badge of honor to contribute to projects that a lot of other software developers contribute to. So there are projects on GitHub that a lot of our mentors have contributed to. Some of them have contributed to Ruby on Rails itself, which is the framework that a lot of people use for web development. Most of them are web developers full-time outside of Bloc. So what we really like about that is you're not getting a professional teacher who hasn't actually used web development in 10 years. You're getting someone who's currently using web development. All their skills are modern. They're teaching you exactly what they're using right now, so you can make sure that everything they're teaching you is not out of date. And a few of them are actually entrepreneurs themselves. I'll show you an example in a second. And we cover a lot of time zones, so our mentors are all around the globe, so we cover everything in the Pacific time zone, eastward to India. And again, because they're all around the world, we also happen to cover a lot of different languages. languages. Here's an example of one of our mentors, one of our favorites. His name is Elad. He's been doing software development for 15 years and has a lot of entrepreneurial experience. He's founded and sold 3 startups and was voted one of Israel's top 40 young entrepreneurs in 2010. He's also a really big contributor to Ruby on Rails. So he's teaching a framework that he literally has written partially by himself. And let me dig into a few of the courses now. So one of the courses, the featured course that we teach is full stack web development. This is the course where we teach you Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Again, we're trying to get you through the program so that by the end of it, you've built 5 to 7 actual deployed web applications for your portfolio. The curriculum looks like the foundation section is essentially building a Reddit clone. So we walked you through this process of building an entire full-featured Reddit clone to give you that whirlwind tour of what Ruby on Rails looks like. And then the 7 projects, there's like kind of a huge spattering of options for you to pick from depending on what you want to get more into. You can build a software as a service application that uses Stripe. You can learn how to build a KISS metrics or Google Analytics kind of clone, and that dives a little bit deeper into front end. But we like to provide you a lot of different options for projects that you can build so that you can kind of customize your learning towards things that you're more interested in. And again, it all culminates in this capstone project where you're coming up with an idea of your own and your mentor's helping you spec it out. Another course that we started is UX design. UX design is a little less programming heavy and more about designing interfaces for web applications, iPhone applications, Android applications. You primarily work with things like Photoshop and Illustrator, but you also get into implementing those designs using HTML, CSS, and using JavaScript for a little bit of interactivity. It's the same kind of thing as our other courses where it's very project-oriented. You learn how to design a landing page, you design a SaaS application, you design a mobile application, you design an iOS application, and we'll show you a few more examples of these later on. One of our more recent courses is Android. So this is doing Android development using Java. It's building actual Android applications and deploying them to the Android store. So when you sign up for this course, we actually send you an Android phone to work on. So you're building real applications that you can use on your phone. Same kind of format as the other ones. In Android, in the foundation section, you're actually building something that we call block notes. And it's essentially a simpler version of Evernote. And then you also build a photo sharing app that uses the Flickr API, as well as a 2-dimensional Android game that uses gamification elements. And our most recent course is front-end web development. So this is it's different from full-stack web development in that in full-stack web development, you learn HTML, CSS, a lot of Ruby, and a lot of Rails. In front-end web development, you spend a much larger portion of the program learning JavaScript and front-end frameworks like Angular or jQuery. The main project in the front-end course is building an audio clone. If you're not familiar with audio, it's a lot like Spotify or Google Music. It's a music player that's a really sophisticated front-end web application. So you get a really thorough experience using JavaScript and Angular, building a sophisticated front-end application. And I'll let Prasid take over from here. I'll talk about some of the students we've had going through the program.
Hey Roshan, thanks. So guys, my name is Prasid. I'm going to cover some of our alumni. So this is Joanne. Joanne was a marketer before enrolling in Bloc, and you can see one of the projects she did was called the Jifinator. But the one that I thought was really interesting was Coder Match. And so Roshan talked a little bit about the idea of pair programming. That one of the best ways to learn is by working side by side with a mentor as you build real stuff. So Joanne found so much value in the idea of pair programming that she actually created a peer-to-peer platform called Coder Match, and it's now a real app. And I had a student on an info session a week or two ago who said, I actually use Coder Match. So Joanne launched a real startup company after graduating from Bloc on this idea, and you should check out Coder Match. This is another alum student project, and right after graduating, Lawson got a freelance gig with Valspar. Does anyone know who Valspar is? When you go to Home Depot and you buy a bucket of paint, Valspar is one of those giant paint companies. And so he got this freelance gig right after graduating to design this microsite, the Paint Drop for Valspar. Here's another example of one of our alums. This is Paddy. Paddy is one of those people that when you meet, you could just tell. She's an entrepreneur. She just needed the technical skills to unlock her ideas. And so she actually told me a story a couple months ago when we were chatting about how she wanted to build an app, and she wanted to get some changes made in the second iteration on that app. And the consultant that she'd hired was like, oh, that'll be a couple $1,000. And she's like, well, for a couple $1,000, I can just become a developer and make the changes myself. And so that's what she did. She enrolled in Bloc. She became a web developer, and then this was her capstone project. The idea is called Travel Poker, and the concept is essentially create a curated list of tourist attractions for when your friend comes to town, like your friend comes to San Francisco to visit, and so you pull together a list of like 5 cards that represent 5 tourist attractions that you think this particular friend would like. So that was her startup idea, and now she's on to like her second or third startup idea. She did something around Bitcoin. She did something, it was actually really cool. It was like a ticker for Bitcoin. Anyway, Roshan also mentioned we recently launched a apprenticeship in UX design, and so this is one of the apps that students built during the UX design apprenticeship. You design an app for iOS, and so this is Gemma, one of our alums' mobile payments app, and you can see it's beautiful. And she actually not only designed it using Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, but then she actually basically had like a web-based version of it working that she could use in demos and as part of her portfolio when looking for jobs. And she's actually been interviewing very successfully. She just graduated I think this week. This is an example of a web publishing app. This is one of the first apps that students design so this was designed about 3 weeks into the UX design apprenticeship, and the concept for this app is that it's supposed to be sort of like medium.com, and you can see it looks beautiful. And then this is, you learn to design for iOS, you also learn to design for Android, and finally you learn to design for Windows Phone. And apparently there aren't a lot of Windows Phone designers out there, and so if you can design well for Windows Phone, you can make a lot of money doing it. And so this is one of our students. His name is Jay, and this was Jay's design for the same mobile payments app, but this was his design for Windows Phone. The last thing that we wanted to end with, and then I'm going to introduce Mark, who's one of our alums. He's going to share his experience with Bloc. I wanted to end with a little bit about the different payment options for all of our apprenticeships. And so I also wanted to point out that we do have payment plans for all of our apprenticeships. We also have a diversity scholarship available, and we also have what I think is a pretty liberal refund policy, which is that if you're not getting value, we don't get paid. We really believe in the idea of results. All right.
Okay, cool. So we're going to do a quick Q&A because we've got a couple of questions. And I just want to remind everybody to use that questions tab so that you can ask any questions that you have as we go through this. We'll do one more Q&A session after this. So one of the questions was how does the Bloc program compare to in-person boot camps? Oh, and I'm going to unmute you. Okay.
Do you want to take it or should I?
I can take it.
Okay.
Sorry, babe. So yeah, in-person boot camps. We're really familiar with them. There's Dev Bootcamp, Hack Reactors, tons of other people out there who do in-person boot camps. I think the primary difference between Bloc and those other programs is that we are entirely online, so we're a lot more flexible of an option. You don't have to leave your job. You don't have to relocate to New York or Chicago or San Francisco. You can do it all from your home while you keep your current job. The second thing that we would like to point out is Bloc is one-on-one. It's not really cohort based, so you can enroll any Monday. You don't have to enroll with other students, and because of that, because it's entirely one-on-one between you and your mentor, we can accommodate your learning requirements. If you want to dive deeper into one section, you don't have to, wait for other students. You can just do it with your mentor. So we can kind of tailor the experience to you, and I think those are kind of the two main differentiators.
Okay, awesome. One other question: what does somebody need to do to get accepted into Bloc? Is there an application process, or what is the process there?
So let me take that one. So our approach is essentially that anybody who's willing to make the time commitment and willing to take on the 25-hour a week, I want to build 7 apps, will take on. And so basically the process is that you fill out a very short form on our site. Me or Julian has a conversation with you, and then once you've had that basically 30-minute phone interview, you're essentially accepted.
Okay, great. One other question from Abe. If I'm interested in primarily front-end web development to start, would your front-end course be best versus the Rails program? And secondly, his question was, how is the design course different from the front-end course?
Sure. So if you're primarily interested in learning front-end, I would definitely recommend the front-end course. It goes much deeper into JavaScript. While you get a cursory glance of it in full-stack web development, if you're primarily interested in doing front-end, you get to spend a lot more time on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and other front-end frameworks like Angular, Backbone, etc. in the front-end course. The big difference between front-end and UX design is it places a lower emphasis on actual programming. It's more about using Photoshop and Illustrator to design interfaces. A UX designer at a company like a startup is typically creating mock-ups and going through creating user flows, like how does a user actually interact with this interface? What does this interface look like? And then they create those mock-ups either in Photoshop or with HTML and CSS, and then hand those off to developers to actually implement.
Cool. Okay, one last question, and then we will pass this on to Mark. What if somebody needs more than 12 weeks? Is there any flexibility in the length of the course?
So we're actually experimenting with something new right now. It's a 24-week program. It's similar to the one we already have, but the frequency you meet with your mentors is decreased a little bit. It's just meant to accommodate people who can't commit to the same amount of time, but can commit to maybe half the amount of time. So we just doubled the length of the program, lower time commitment, a little less intense. But yeah, we do offer a separate option for people who have a lower time commitment.
Awesome. That sounds like a really cool option. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and pass this on to Mark so that he can share his project with us. All right.
All right, so yes, they were saying my name is Mark. Good to meet you all. I just graduated from Bloc. I went through the 12 weeks. I went through the full stack web development curriculum. As they're mentioning before, like your first big project is creating a Reddit. That's what we're looking at right now. Right now, I'm still signed in. You can see, you learn as you're building the project. You learn a bit about design too, and you learn a lot of the you learn some front end stuff, but you focus a lot on the back end stuff as well. And as you can see here, you got about topics, and every topic has some posts. I apologize for the lots of photos of an 8-bit me. It's a little bit narcissistic, but I just wanted to show you. Let's see, you can comment on posts, you can vote them up, or vote them down. Yeah, and this project really exposes you to a lot of ideas. You explore a lot of stuff in Rails while making this project, and you learn a ton, and it's really fun to build. You learn a lot about just web development in general. A lot of this stuff will definitely just stay with you regardless, I think, of where you decide to go afterwards with regard to development. A lot of the stuff's relevant regardless. Let's see, so we have a profile here, avatar, and let's see, it's just a topic. There's one where I can favorite, unfavorite things. And it's really cool. It feels really awesome when when you got everything working. It really, as they were saying before, it's like a craft, and you just once it's working, it's really something else. It feels pretty awesome once you get over all the hurdles, which are part of the learning process. It's fantastic, and it's just really fun. And so that was my version of Block It, the Reddit clone. And then for the capstone project that I did, my mentor Oliver, he because towards the end, like about 2/3 of the way through the apprenticeship, he just I told him, I said, I want to learn more about one of those JavaScript frameworks, because it seems like a lot of Rails developers are also getting familiar with some JavaScript libraries on the front. And then he recommended Ember to me. Ember is a pretty neat JavaScript library. It can do a lot of stuff. And so for my capstone, I not only learned more about Rails, but I also learned a ton about Ember, and I was able to put together like a basic prototype here. The app is called Lesson Forge. As you can see, the UI is kind of not existent right now. A lot of the design has been going on, just in the back and in the front, making sure that Rails and Ember play nice. But the idea is pretty simple. So I just logged in, and you have your user profile, and this is an app that lets anyone, if they want, they can create courses and lessons about all types of stuff. This is just a little sample course that I made. Right now, what I've mainly been focusing on is like basically making sure everything, because there's a lot of not to go too far into programming speak. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of objects are interacting with each other. Basically, we have the course US history, and the lesson it has right now is basic US history. And you can see here one of the key features of the app is to be able to just create questions like so, and you can there's even feedback right here, so get all that stuff going. And if you decide to edit the questions, you go ahead. If you want to be really enthusiastic, George Washington. John Quincy Adams. And you can see you can mark answers as correct, not correct. And you could update a question. For example, that you could add another answer. it done, and boom, everything's updated accordingly. And there's actually a lot of authentication. That was actually it's something I'm still kind of working on with this app also, is making sure that people who sign up and they sign up as teachers, which is taken care of here at the little registration form here. People who sign up as teachers, they have access only to edit, their courses and nothing else. And that's a big part of it too. It's just a lot of authentication. And as you can see, I mean, Ember's running with this, so it's pretty fast. Everything's pretty much everything's happening on one page. And my mentor just he encouraged me to do it. He said just go ahead and jump in. He thought I'd be comfortable enough doing it. And while I was learning Ember, our sessions we both started learning just a ton about Ember from our sessions, because we would explore Ember together. And he would guide me through decisions to take. And initially it felt like just definitely a little challenging, but the mentor was there Oliver was there the whole time, and it was fantastic. Like I wouldn't have done it if he hadn't pushed me to do it. And so now not only am I pretty familiar with Ruby on Rails now, but I also have a pretty decent understanding of Ember too. And also, just last thing, as a result of my Block experience and my experience with trying to using Ember stuff, and there's definitely some challenges to be overcome when you're first jumping into learning Ember, especially using Ember and Rails together. So I wrote a couple tutorials, and for part one here, if anyone watching is interested, go for it. Go to humblecoder.me, and check out this tutorial. If you want to get a pretty basic understanding of how Ember works with Rails. You build just a simple post creating app. Nothing special, but you can create and edit posts if you follow this tutorial. And then the next part, if you're still with me, too, I actually wrote a tutorial also, just introducing test-driven development, which was something my mentor was very keen on, and he made sure that I understood the essentials of it, and so I wrote a tutorial based around that too. So definitely check it out if you want a nice tutorial to follow through, and of course give me your feedback too if you're interested. So yeah, overall it's a great experience. You do a lot of coding, you do a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's you learn so much, and you pretty much accomplish things that, or at least I certainly accomplished things that I didn't think I was going to be able to do. And I had a decent, at least obvious programmer background before, and my mentor in the Block's curriculum really pushed me. So if you can, the more time you put into it, the better it is. It's just awesome. So yeah, I think.
Cool, Mark. Thank you so much. Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you. So one is from Michael. He says, you seem pretty well versed in programming. What was your experience level when you started the course? And I'm going to unmute you.
Okay, thanks for the question. My background was, before then, I occasionally dabbled in it for the past couple of years. I even took a couple courses on, Coursera on using the free resources, just to get, a pretty solid foundation. But thing was with those, as great as they are for learning, some fundamentals, you really need projects, and that's a reason I went to Block. You really need projects to really solidify things. But yeah, that was my background. I just I read a couple books. I checked out a few of the free resources. And I got a decent basic understanding, and then that wasn't enough, and I decided to really just go for it and checked out Block.
Awesome. Okay, and then one other question, and then we've got a question for the Block team. A wanted to know what could have made your experience in the program any better, and I'm gonna.
I think that's a tough one. It's a tough one to answer with the Block guy sitting right here. Huh? Listen, one thing I think I would have enjoyed, they could have made it even better. It's just even more projects. I mean, I know that's what they're doing anyway. But kind of it's the more projects you can get your hands on, the better, and the more that Block can add and still fit into their curriculum, that's going to make it even better.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Mark. We're going to go back to Prasid and Roshan. Unmuted.
So my question for Mark was, or I lost it. So my question for Mark was, my question for you was, tell us about your plans for Lesson Forge now that you've graduated.
Oh, I plan on I'm gonna keep building it out, and I'm gonna keep as I enhance it. I really want to get an awesome solid prototype going, and I really want to launch a startup surrounding it. I think it will be a great tool for educators from everywhere, to use regardless of what they teach. And hey, if any student here is looking to do looking to check out Block and is convinced now, if this sounds like something you want to get involved with, definitely reach out to me. I'd be happy to work with you.
Okay, so I've got one more question from the audience for Prasid and Roshan, and then we will wrap it up. But so this question is, when you are not with the mentors one-on-one, what type of support is offered if you get stuck?
Unmuted. So for web development, we have office hours, and there's really good coverage. It's essentially the mentors all pull their hours together and hang out in a chat room, so you can hop in, and if you need some quick troubleshooting or something, just hop into office hours and ask the on-call mentor. We're still in the early beta stages, though.
Very cool. Okay, so thanks so much for joining Course Report and joining Block for this webinar. Roshan and Prasid and Mark, we can't thank you enough for being here. And if you have any additional questions for Block, please get in touch with Prasid. I'll be sending out contact info after this. And if you have any questions about Course Report, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We will send out the recording of this webinar, so check your inboxes for that. And please visit coursereport.com and sign up for our email list, and you'll get all of our future updates on webinars and interviews. And remember to use that promo code CourseReport when you register for your next Block Apprenticeship, and you'll get $200 off your tuition. Feel free to share that with your friends as well. And thanks, everyone, and have a great night.